Well, we do praise God for each and every one of y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here on this evening. Definitely a day that the Lord has made. Somebody needs to rejoice, hallelujah, and be glad in it. Well, guess what, people of God? It's now time for the green screen. And of course, we're inspirational, motivational, encouraging, and informative. Man, we're so glad you all are here on tonight. So sit back, relax, and for the full hour, you're going to enjoy information that will, you know what, hey, it's going to open up a whole lot of things to let you know what's going on, all right? I'm just telling you, man, this is the green screen, all right? I'm your truly Apostle Lee Kondo, and we're going to get started, amen. We praise God for each and every one of you. Thank you so much for locking it in to the one and only green screen. All right. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. We thank God for you all that are here on tonight. Thank you all for joining us live on Facebook. And we are the green screen. That's right. We make it happen. We do things, amen, glory be to God, where people can find out what's going on. I'm yours truly, Apostle Lee A. Kondo on tonight. And I want y'all to be encouraged because guess what? I got a special guest tonight. And my special guest tonight on the green screen is Rob Anderson, candidate for the 3rd Congressional U.S. District. Amen. The only Democrat in the race, challenging incumbent Clay Higgins. Top of the good evening to you, sir. How are you doing on this evening?
I am doing great. Good evening to you as well. Thank you for having me on. I do have to, since I'm an open and honest candidate, that's the kind of person I am. There is another Democrat running. I'm not going to promote him.
Okay.
I am the heavyweight Democrat running, the one with all the media. And there's also a libertarian running in the race against the incumbent. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing that and clearing that up for me. All right. But hey, you're here now. So listen, we're going to go.
Yeah.
We're going to make it happen, right?
That's right. It's a heavyweight duel. It's me and Clay.
Okay, okay, got you. All right, as we continue on tonight, man, first of all, sir, I thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us on tonight for the green screen. For the hour, we're going to chop it up, you know, and I know you're a busy man. And like I said, I really appreciate you taking time out to be with us here on the green screen tonight. All right. So you ready to talk, man? You ready to talk?
I am.
Let's talk.
Let's talk for an hour. Let's talk.
Yes, sir. Let's talk. All right, let's do it. Amen. All right. Why don't you just go ahead on and tell everyone about yourself, man? That the audience knows.
All right. Yeah, I'll run the short bio for you. I was a military brat growing up, bounced around all over. Did professional and IT work for about the first 15 years of my working career, and then I went into blue collar trades. Drilling was my last blue collar job before I left the industry when I was 48, 3 years ago. Then I went into politics. I'm a family man. Married my childhood sweetheart when I was 21. We're still married.
Wow.
I have 2 grown kids, both with engineering degrees. So we did well there, which was what we considered our job, you know, during the family years. My son's up and working in Bossier now, and my daughter's over in Waco, Texas. So my wife and I decided to, you know, give back to the people and dedicate our lives to public service. And that's what we're doing.
Well, man,
since we don't have to, we don't have as many hungry mouths to feed anymore. So,
well, that's a good deal. Well, I appreciate that.
Makes it easier to go broke, you know, working for others.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I do understand that, man. I appreciate you being here on tonight. So, tell me something, Mr. Rob. Why you want to serve in Congress, man? What made? Why you want to do that?
There's a couple of different reasons. One, whenever I look at politics, it looks corrupt to me too. I know a lot of people get that perception, but that was definitely my motivator. Is there has to be a way a decent, regular person, just somebody who's worked regular jobs their whole life. I mean, I'm smart. I'm not, you know, not putting myself down, but I chose fields that would challenge me and kept doing those sorts of things. I never went into law or teaching or any of the, you know, so-called intellectual fields, professional fields. I liked working with my hands. I liked building things. I did concrete. I did drilling. I did home building. But yeah, I just saw the corruption and the slimy hypocrisy from politics. And I said, well, you know I'm a regular decent guy. Why don't I give it a shot? That's really what motivated me in 2018 when I first ran against Higgins. And, you know, I was a strict amateur then. I didn't know anything about anything. I just knew that he was not a good person with a good background. And then he's just a party machine. You know, he just votes how the party wants. He doesn't have any ideas for Acadiana. He doesn't have any ideas for Louisiana. He's just in there to to make the connections, make the big bucks, set up his next reality TV show or whatever he's doing. And I just wanted to be able to say, why can't a good man get into politics?
Right.
And last time I got 13,000 votes on a budget of, $15,000 or whatever we spent, not much. So I knew that it could be done. And this time we built up a social media following, a huge one, mostly on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of them. But that drove that we knew we had the power to try again and to really get the attention of the national press and the national cause, bring money and to our cause here in Louisiana. It's hard to get donations as a Democrat in this state because we're so used to losing.
Yeah, all right.
I don't like throwing away my money either. You're going to give money to a candidate, is just going to give it a good hearty try but fail. It gets tiring. But when all right, we actually have a chance to win. Got a bad candidate that we're calling a lot of attention to on national issues. You saw the big articles come out this week. That was my campaign that pushed them and got them noticed. We were the ones who got the story out there. We were the ones doing the research that broke the story a couple months ago about Higgins district aide who also worked with them in the Opelousas Police Department as part of their cover-up. We made sure that story got out. So we're doing the work behind the scenes to call attention to our district. That was our goal this time, to do a 21st century campaign, digital media like this, like your show. This is where it's at. This is the future. Right. We also run cable ads and whatnot and conventional radio, but we think, Facebook and Twitter is a good way, an inexpensive way for politicians to compete. And we're showing that it can be done in the state of Louisiana. So we actually have a hell of a chance because the national attention.
Yeah, and that's great, man. We have a lot of folks that's beginning to join us on Facebook, and I'm quite sure they're sharing it on your page as well. But
yes,
I just want to say, in case you guys are just joining us, we're talking to Rob Anderson, candidate for 3rd Congressional U.S. District, okay? And of course, he's running against incumbent Clay Higgins. And so he's here on the green screen. That's right. That's who we're talking to tonight. And yeah, he's here with us on the green screen for election 2020. So before I'll give you the next question, I just want to ask you something. You find out that the media, the social media is helping your campaign a lot?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm here. Say hello to my cat so I can get him out of the way. He was trying to climb. He was trying to climb up and knock the camera over, so I wanted to preempt that. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Oh, I said, do you, as you campaign 2020, you find out that the social media is helping you a lot?
With the pandemic that broke out this year in March, especially, I find that there's no other way to do it this year. Right. Public gatherings, which are conventionally what politicians do, hosting events, door knocking, things like that. That's kind of out right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We have to stay masked. We have to stay in small groups. So the advent of Zoom conferences and digital interaction on Facebook and Twitter, primarily for us, those two. Yeah, that's the way we're going this year. It's safe. It's distant. You're down Morgan City, I presume. Right now, I'm up in Broussard, and here we are. And this is a lot of politics this year. And you either adapt or die. And we've done very well at adapting to the. My problem setting up my camera gimbal before we started, notwithstanding.
Yeah,
but they don't know about that. But
they don't know about that one. But it's pretty cool. I'm so glad everything is working out. Man, once again, I appreciate you being here. Like I said, now I just got to keep it real, keep it 100. Huh? Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Okay, you're Caucasian. You're a Democrat, all right? And someone with all field, and someone with some all field experience, right? All right. Yeah. You're kind of rare, amen. You're kind of rare, but I want to ask you something. What makes you a Democrat? And this is also your second time running for office. So tell us why you're doing it again. First of all, what makes you a Democrat? This is your second time running, and like I said, tell us why you're doing it again.
Okay. Well, I'll answer the second part first since it's easier and faster. I'm doing it again because I learned a lot. As we spoke prior to the interview, when you talked about you're on the city council now, and I said, politics is a lot different on the inside, isn't it? And we agreed. And it's the same thing with running for Congress. The first time you just kind of say, well, I'm going to run for Congress. Sounds like a great idea. I don't know what to do. I'll find somebody who does. You know, you file this and you register for that. And what do you do? How do you connect with people? Well, you learn a lot. And I think almost any candidate really learns by doing. And I didn't think we gave it our best effort. And I'd like to give my best effort. So that's why we're doing it again. If it doesn't work this time, I'm not going to be one of those people who keeps running. I'll just say, well, I gave it my shot. I'll find some other way to help people of Louisiana. But that's why I think this time we can do it right. We learned a lot. I kind of learned how the system works while we can still run a clean campaign and not take, corporate PAC money. We're all funded by the people. We can do it all the right way and still make it work because of the power of social media. So we're kind of a brand new campaign. And as you said, I'm Caucasian. I'm a ex-driller, and and a Democrat. So what makes me a Democrat? Well, one, I believe that women's health should not be a political issue. So that's the main reason I chose the Democratic Party. That in general, they are more supportive of women's health. And I don't want to get into the specifics of that unless you drag me over the coals later. But you know what I'm talking about, and that's the main thing. And the other one is the other main reason. I've always voted Democrat for president. I was an independent registered for 31 years up till the last campaign. As a matter of fact, July of 2018, I switched officially to Democrat and haven't gone back. But from the time I was 18 and first voted up until then, I was an independent. And I'd always voted for Democrats for president. Nationally, I still agreed with, I voted Mike Dukakis was my first election. He lost to George H.W. Bush in '88. And then I voted for Bill Clinton, then Bill Clinton, then Al Gore, then John Kerry, and then Barack Obama, and so on. So at one point it became like, we've really gotten during the Trump era, I think, to the point where you have to choose a side. You really have to stand up and say, I am for diversity, inclusion, racial equality, women's health, addressing the climate, or I'm against it. It has become so polarized that I'm standing up and saying, I want, there can be no economic justice until we have social justice. There can be no true equality until there's as many women representatives as there are men, for example. You could talk about equality, but there isn't any until that's represented. And there's no woman running in the district this year. Last time there was, and a lot of people told me to drop out because I'm a Democrat. And it's like, well, a woman's running, you're supposed to drop out. It's like, well, that's not equality either. But this time it's, me against Higgins. And, as you said, I kind of look like a Republican light, which helps, I think, with all the moderate voters in Lake Charles and Moss Bluff and Westlake, and the people like me, kind of a Trojan horse that I can help bring Democratic principles and get another Democratic congressman in the state to go along. The only one we have is Cedric Richmond over in New Orleans. He's our only Democrat out of 6. So let's get another one in there, and then we're closer to equal representation in Congress. And of course, we have 2 Republican senators. Now we do have a Democrat governor. But then the state legislature is massively Republican. So, I mean, we have our work cut out for us.
Yeah, you got a challenge.
It's a challenge.
Yes, sir.
I always relish a challenge. I don't choose things because they're the easy way. If I'd switched to, somebody asked me last time, well, I switched from independent to Democrat, why didn't I choose Republican? I said, I can't. I could never register Republican, not what they've turned into. I can't. Right. I would stay independent rather than do that. But as I said, you have to stand up and say, well, I'm against this. We have to, we're losing our coast every day in Louisiana. We're losing some Louisiana every day, and we're not doing anything. Yes. And somebody has to, stand up for Louisiana. Somebody has to.
Right. Well,
and not just for the oil companies. I'm all about oil companies. I work for them. That's not a problem. I'm not anti-oil, but they got to pay their share. And when they make a mess, they got to clean it up.
Yes, sir.
It's our water. It's our water. It's our air.
Wow. Yes, sir. Well, you know what? Hey, great answer, man. Great answer. And I thank you, man, for taking that challenge, stepping it up, and doing something for Louisiana. We really appreciate appreciate that to the highest. And now this platform is huge, Facebook, because once I, excuse me, once we get through here, I'm going to download it to my YouTube channel. So, and then just think everybody on your page sharing it, people on my page sharing it. So, you're reaching a lot of folks this way. So once again, hey, the platform, hey, we got to take advantage of that, correct?
Absolutely.
Appreciate you, man.
That's how it's done.
So, yeah,
that's how we can win.
That's right. Exactly. That's how we can win. All right. Hey, listen, since you're running for Congress, I feel this important. I'm a man of God. I thank God for that. I've been in ministry now for 20 years. And so my question to you on tonight, and I feel this important since you're running for Congress, is that do you believe in God? And if so, why is that? Why is that so important to you? Why is that so important to you?
I will answer that as I do, since I'm running for a federal position. My wife and I are both Catholic, but because of the First Amendment separation of church and state, I don't proselytize or push faith on anybody, because for the same reason that we don't want our faiths challenged by others, I don't challenge them with mine. So I would just say that it is part of the personal belief system. And thank God we live in a country where our Constitution defends our right to do so. And that's how I believe about faith.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that, man. And thank you for your answer.
Just because Catholics shouldn't look down on Baptists, even.
Right. We're all one.
We're all different. And then that it goes the same for Jewish friends, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim. All faiths are equal, and I'm not going to tell anybody what to believe.
Right, exactly right. Well, hey, we put it in there, just to give you something to talk about, and we understand that. We appreciate your answers as well, So thank you so much. So tell us, the audience that's with us on today, tell us what the parishes that make up the 3rd Congressional District, and which one do you live in, and were you impacted by the storm as well?
Calcasieu, yes, I was impacted by the storm. Calcasieu, Acadiana, Lafayette, St. Mary, Cameron. Oh, people are going to yell at me if I can't remember all 11. Part of St. Landry, Jefferson Davis. There's 11 and a half total.
11 and a half total. Okay, gotcha.
And I can Wikipedia and Google it to give you, but off the top of my head, I'm drawing a blank. But we're in DeQuincy, north of Lake Charles, and yes, we were impacted by Hurricane Laura. Our home, as are so many hundreds of thousands of Louisiana residents right now, is without power. We are staying currently in Broussard, as I said, which is kind of my campaign, room we rent that's near the office, which is in Lafayette. So fortunately, it wasn't hit as hard over here in Lafayette, which brings up, unfortunately, the Lafayette government's decision not to shelter evacuees from Hurricane Laura, which I'm sure you heard about last week.
Yes, sir. Yeah, definitely heard about that. That's
kind of segue into that. There's a lot of people in Calcasieu and in Lake Charles, and I've been going to Lake Charles every day. We go to, there's a couple of churches there. We donated water one day, foods the other, pet foods. We're donating what we can. My wife and I are not wealthy, but we're willing to share whatever we have with everybody. And the campaign has been able to contribute water and such like. So we're getting supplies to Lake Charles every day. But when you drive through it, you could tell, like there's 3 houses in a row that are smashed to the ground. Wow. And, entire blocks, city blocks, miles and miles of them with power poles still laying in the streets that haven't even been cleared yet. Wires everywhere. It was absolutely devastated. And then kind of as soon as the storm passed, people stopped talking about it. But it's still happening. I mean, everybody in Lake Charles, Sulphur, DeQuincy, Cameron are still going to be without power for a couple more weeks from what we've heard. So, it's a major situation down there, especially as in a Louisiana summer and the humidity and not having air conditioning. Not everybody's wealthy enough to have a generator and run a generator all day, every day. That's an exorbitant cost. So a lot of people are really suffering right now with the heat. And that's if they kept a home at all. A lot of people just lost the entire thing. So for Lafayette to not allow evacuees on some imaginary threat of Antifa, was mind-bogglingly stupid. I know Josh Guillory. He ran in the last race also
Yeah.
against
Yes.
Clay
Sure
Higgins
did. Hmm.
in 2018. So I got to know him a bit. I mean, we're acquaintances, I would say. He would say friends, but I'm not so sure with his latest decisions right now because I'm going
Wow.
to have to attack. I'm going to have to drag him publicly like this, as he's making some
Uh-huh.
bad decisions and
Right.
not helping your neighbor city after a hurricane. Is I can't think of anything that's less Louisiana than that. That's nobody. I'd never heard of such thing.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
saw that as well, and I was like, "That's just unbelievable, right there, for
right?
someone to be in that position and have that authority to do something, and then don't do anything about it." So, and I appreciate you, tapping on that a little bit because I'm quite sure that upset you, and that leads me to my next question. So, you say you were impacted about Hurricane Laura, but how do you see the response to Cameron in the Lake Charles area? Is there a large response of things happening over there to help
Well,
out?
there's a lot of charities and a lot of local groups, and I do have a list. If you want me to, I can read it off on the air.
Mhm.
Of That's it. My cat didn't knock it off. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I have
Take
a.
your time.
This
Mhm.
is the home office, not the
Yes,
office
sir.
office. So, I showed you
It's all
before. My
good.
cat's crawling all over. But yeah,
Yes, sir.
there's a lot of local nonprofits and churches. Of course, it's a lot of the churches that are helping in Lake Charles, and at the Charles Civic Center is the biggest response. One thing I haven't heard about is the federal government, FEMA. Their on
Right.
the ground response yet. A lot of
Mhm.
people have said, FEMA is going to be authorized. I heard it from the governor's office, heard it from President Trump when he visited last Saturday, but I haven't seen FEMA trailers roll in. I've seen their a FEMA depot before. I've toured one. So I know what they contain. They contain emergency trailers that can just be popped onto a semi and trucked to any disaster. I haven't seen any FEMA trailers. I haven't heard anybody say, yeah, FEMA came by and cut up these trees in my yard. I haven't seen it yet. I'm not saying they haven't. I'm not attacking the government here. I'm just telling
Right.
you, I haven't seen anything to do with FEMA on the ground in Lake Charles. And that being said, Lake Charles is getting a lot more help than Cameron is.
Mhm.
Cameron's having real trouble, and some of the smaller districts and towns surrounding Lake Charles are having trouble getting anybody to pay attention to them because at least Lake Charles is a big city.
Right.
So there's a lot of people that are making noise, and then there are, sorry about the camera there.
That's
There
okay.
are distributions coming in of water and food and even bags of ice and fuel for generators. But it's harder for that people in Cameron, for example, to be getting help. So yeah, we could use some FEMA help here. This is a big problem. This is where the federal government can step in and help. That's what they're there for. They have the resources, they have the manpower, and I'd like to see it. Definitely get some trailers down in Cameron and start getting some food and water and dog food. And they had a big problem with the pets. Pets running around without food, and owners and as a pet owner, that means something to me. It
Right.
doesn't to everybody, but
Right.
it's it's a problem.
Hmm. Hmm.
Southwest Louisiana right now is in the middle of a crisis, and we need to make sure it's identified as such.
Yes, sir. And by the way, I'm a pet owner as well. I
Okay.
feel you on that one. I feel you on that one. And you basically answered the next question because I was going to ask you, what more do you feel should be done in the wake of hurricane damage? So you just answered that one for me, and I appreciate that. In case you all just joining us on tonight, we are talking to Rob Anderson, candidate for 3rd Congressional U.S. District, amen. And of course, he's challenging the incumbent Clay Higgins. All right. So as we continue on, man, you are campaigning against Clay Higgins. All right. Who
Yeah,
has
I am.
yes,
Yeah.
who has now been in office for 2 terms or 4 years. All right. So
Yeah.
why do you feel he needs to be fired and be replaced by you?
Okay, that's a good question.
That's a good one.
One, because he hasn't improved or gotten better. He went in basically as an unqualified reality YouTube star because he'd made some Crime Stoppers videos, and he's basically his legislation is written by a Republican in the 5th district. That would be Garrett Graves. I know people in that office, and they've told us that that's who writes the legislation for Higgins' office. They don't
Mm.
know anything about policy or politics. They just do whatever Graves' office provides them. And then politically, he's managed by Steve Scalise over in the first district. In terms of GOP messaging, Republican messaging. So basically, he's a placeholder for the Republican Party. He does nothing. He brings nothing. You could have any random Republican in there if you were a Republican voter, and you would be just as well off. In my case, we're bringing ideas and not ideology. We're bringing actual solutions for Louisiana to improve the infrastructure, healthcare, and education. The three main things we want to focus on in Louisiana: better bridges, public Wi-Fi, more mass transit. That all goes under infrastructure. All of it makes our lives better. If we're trying to get to work, and every one of us had a car breakdown or something, or you need a bus, and there's not a good mass transit system here in Southwest Louisiana. And that's only in the urban areas. You imagine out in the rural areas, there's no busing. People up there need to get to the pharmacy to get their medication, whatever. Anyway, so we need better mass transit. We need public Wi-Fi. The COVID pandemic this year has really isolated that problem, that if you want kids to stay home and remote learn from school, so for safety, so they're not sharing a novel virus, but what if they don't have Wi-Fi in their region? And that happens a lot in this state. Where I live up north of DeQuincy, matter of fact, we just got DSL, not even high-speed cable. We got DSL last December. Now this December was it first brought in before they were running on satellite dish. There was no high-speed internet up there. So now at least we have moderate speed internet, but so that I could do like a Zoom call like this. I wouldn't have been able to do this time last year from home.
Wow.
So, and a lot of people up there in that same boat, just no public Wi-Fi. So if you add public Wi-Fi to the entire state, it raises everybody's standard of living. Kids can go to school. We all bank online, watch YouTube online. Social media is now online. Regular media is online. It's all online. So, we need Louisiana to catch up to the 21st century. And of course, healthcare is a national issue that we all know about, fighting for the ACA, fighting towards universal healthcare. And we want to continue that fight. We don't want to, sue to get rid of pre-existing conditions or cut back healthcare like the Republican Party's doing. We want everybody in the country, every single man, woman, and child to have healthcare, period. That's the goal. And that's the Democratic Party goal. And how do we do it? I don't know. Let's get in there and fix it. There's got to be a way to do it. 33 industrialized nations around the world have universal healthcare of some way. It doesn't mean it's free. That's a misnomer calling it free, but they all have universal, where everybody's covered, whether they have a job or not. It's not tied to employment. Everybody is allowed to have healthcare. I consider it to be part of the preamble to the Constitution, the line that says, promote the general welfare. To me, that means healthcare, because we're in the 21st century and penicillin's been invented. When the Constitution was written, we didn't have healthcare. Doctor meant they'd cut off your leg, they'd tie it off and give you a shot of whiskey. We have healthcare now.
Yes.
So I think the country should grow with it. And that's our view. So that's what I want to bring to the district. I don't want to bring ideology about, whatever Higgins stands for, stand with a gun on his hip and he's going to shoot you if you do wrong. And all that.
We'll get into
crap.
that.
That image stuff, I have no part of. I don't care about that. I want good stuff for the people of Louisiana, and in the right way, infrastructure, education, healthcare. That's what we're pushing for. And coastal reform. I used to say it was just 3, but it's really 4, because we do have to address climate at some point. And if we don't do it soon, our grandkids aren't going to have a planet. So.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that is good, man. Sounds like you got a plan, man. Sound like
I
you
do.
got a plan. Yeah. That's good news,
I'm not
right
just
there.
doing this on the lark. Yeah. When I first started running for Congress, I studied literally for 18 hours a day for 6 months, just reading up and catching up on all that I needed to know about this district to run without sounding like an idiot.
Gotcha.
A lot of politicians get up there and just kind of flap their mouths, but it's like, it helps if you've done the reading. I know what I'm talking about. Right. And I still read 12 hours a day, in between things, just constantly staying up with information.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, hey, listen, we appreciate you all so much for being here on tonight. We're live on Facebook. It's the green screen. We're what? We're inspirational. We're motivational. We're encouraging and informative. And once again, my special guest tonight, Brother Rob Anderson, candidate for 3rd Congressional U.S. District. And this brother has a plan. And I appreciate him being here on tonight. And, I'll just go back to something that you said earlier. I'm in the school system as well. And one of the things that they were talking about, as you mentioned about the Wi-Fi, there was, the chat was mentioning something about, putting a bus in an area, park a bus in the area, put the Wi-Fi on the bus for that area. You know what I'm saying? But it's only going to call, for a few. It's not really covering the whole area. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you talking about that. That's real. Those things are needed, man. Those things are needed,
Yeah. No, those
especially in
kind
times
of
like these.
absolutely. Those kind of mobile hotspots where you were talking about a bus, kind of what they're doing right now with the hurricane, where they're bringing mobile towers because some of the cell towers were damaged. My wife couldn't use her cell phone in the entire Lake Charles to Quincy area. She was on a different plan than me. But then we started seeing these mobile towers go up. So the same holds true for the mobile hotspots, for the public Wi-Fi. Yeah, it's a good short-term solution,
Short
in
term,
an
yeah,
emergency.
right. Yeah.
But the kids are going to need to go to school next year, and there's more kids. There's kids all over the state,
Exactly
and
right.
we can't keep overlooking people who live. We like people who live out in the country. They can't be forgotten. The poor people, those are my people. That's where I live.
Right.
I'm
Right.
just a working class guy. So, I look at my neighbors and it's like, we're people too. We vote and,
Yes.
we should get part of the American pie. And we're not talking about we want fancy gold plated toilets. We just want the basics, the basics of the 21st century: food,
Yes, sir.
water, clean air, and now Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is, it's not a luxury anymore like it was when they first started launching it in the 90s. This is part of our day-to-day lives. And we have to acknowledge that as a legislature. You go to Congress, you look at it and you go, yeah, there's nobody who wouldn't benefit from having Wi-Fi. So it's a good thing in the entire country. And there have been plans, some people talking about putting satellites around the entire world and, worldwide Wi-Fi provided by satellite. It can be done these days. Technology's there. It's just a matter of the will to do it. Back in the 50s, Eisenhower invested in the Highway Act, which basically connected our nation with all the superhighways that were all built in the 1950s. And the information superhighway is going to be the same thing in the 2020s. We need to connect the entire world with public internet, not make it as part of like an optional thing. We all need it. It's part of the world now. Yeah.
Most definitely. Yes, sir. When Mr. Rob, when I mentioned when I mentioned the words race, racist, and racism, what does this mean to you?
Well, and I've had some good talks about that with some folks in Lake Charles that allow me to define it, because I know sometimes we as white people, being the Caucasians, being somewhat less exposed to it, obviously, than a person of color. You have to learn that even if you don't think you're racist, there is prejudice and there is racism. And prejudice is disliking somebody or someone. This is how it was explained to me, and I think it holds true. Disliking somebody or someone based on their color of their skin or their religion or for whatever reason. That's prejudice.
Yes.
But if you have power over somebody and then you dislike them because of the color of their skin, and power can be, can I kill somebody and get away with it, then that's racism. Whereas and I'm sure you're familiar with American history in the Jim Crow era, where lynchings were common. It didn't need a judge, jury, and executioner to hang a man from a tree, 100 years ago, or here in the South up to, I think the last one was about 100 years ago here in Louisiana, the last lynching. But this is a reality that we have to face, that just because that stopped happening so frequently doesn't mean it stopped. So racism is real and racism exists, and you can see it, obviously, as we talked about in our preview with our current congressman, who talked about BLM rioters, and he was going to shoot people where they stand based on not breaking a law, but he showed a picture of a bunch of armed black men. So it was very much a visual image of, white open carry in Louisiana is apparently okay. But if you're black, well, now you must be up to something. It's like it's perfectly legal for you to carry a long rifle too. This is Louisiana. We have open carry. So, the dog whistles are getting louder, as we say. And that's the kind of thing that we absolutely have to defend against. And, whether it's through legislation or that time may have passed, because legislatively, if I go to Congress, it's already illegal to discriminate upon race, color, religion. But what we have to wipe away are these last little pockets where people who are racist are still elected. And that view affects their policies, that old way of thinking.
Wow, that's cool because you getting into something that I do have written as one of my points tonight, and we're going to talk about it in just a minute. So, are you offended by the words Black Lives Matter?
No, I went to 2 Black Lives Matter rallies this summer.
Oh wow, good. That's cool. All right, now this is the thing right
And
here.
I'm not going to automatically answer all lives matter. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know about.
yeah.
Yes, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that much. Yes, sir. So here's where we want to get. This is it right here. Now, just this week, and you were talking about it, Congressman Higgins posted on his Facebook page a retaliation message, all right, to any protesters. You were talking about that just a while ago, who arrived armed to protest in Lafayette in regards to the murder of Trayford Pellerin, who was shot and killed by numerous police, all right, as he brandished a knife. But so I want to read to our audience in case they didn't get it. I have the quote right here. I want to read it to our
Okay.
audience. I have the quote right here. It says this. Do I have it all? Yes, I do. Let me just go right back to over here because I want to share this with our audience so they can just see this and hear this for themselves as I share this this post, because of course they didn't let it stay on there. They took it down. You know what I'm saying? But we got it before they took it down. So here it is right here, and I'm going to read that in just a moment. All right, I just had it, and let's go here. All right, are you gonna give it all to me? All right, so let's do this real quick. All right, I got to get this technology, man. Technology. Here it is. Let's go right here. I want to read this because it's very interesting, and I want the audience to know about this. Let's go over here, and I want to read it just this week. This was just this week. Here it is. All right. So, and I'm quoting. Here's what he wrote. Clay Higgins, Captain Clay Higgins. Look, fair warning. If this shows up, we're considered the armed presence a real threat. He goes on to say, we, the people of Louisiana, one-way ticket, fellas, have your affairs in order. Me, I wouldn't even spill my beer, he says. I'd drop any 10 of you where you stand, because some of we, like me, we are SWAT. Nothing personal. We just eliminate the threat. We don't care what color you are. We don't care if you're left or right. If you show up like this, if we recognize threat, you won't walk away. Then he says, that's not a challenge, fellas. It's a promise. We don't want to see worthless, ASS, nor do we want to make your mothers cry. You're the ones threatening. And he goes on to say, if you show yourselves aggressively natured and armed in my presence, in my neighborhood where I work, anywhere close enough to put my family or my fellow citizens in danger, that is where your journey will end fast. How fast? 1,450 FPS fast. Man, can you talk about, what do you think about that? What do you think about that?
1,450 feet per second.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
which is a specific kind of sniper rifle that he
Yes,
was
sir.
referring. What do
Right.
I think about that? I think that was absolutely. It wasn't even a veiled threat. It was an active threat based on made up issues. As I said, I went to 2 rallies this summer myself, and I know of dozens and dozens more that my friends and associates and family attended all over Louisiana. We didn't have a single incident of violence in any one of them. At the ones I went to, we didn't even litter. So these were peaceful, loving protests, standing up for. At the time, it started with George Floyd, and then they mentioned Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. That's what these were about. So the national media, and I'm not blaming, the media here, the fake news, but a lot of people here in Louisiana read the news of what's happening in Portland or Kenosha, Wisconsin, and they feel that any second now, hordes of people are going to come in and start burning their cities. And the FBI has come out and said that all the people arrested doing these things, they're not BLM and they're not Antifa. They're outside agitators, they're anarchists, they're boogie boys, whatever they're called. They're antagonists. They're not obviously part of BLM, and Antifa is not a real organization, as far as I've been able to tell. They certainly didn't invite me. Nobody invited me to Antifa.
Got it.
I would think they had meetings and dues and all that, but somebody wrote me on Facebook the other day, why hasn't Biden condemned Antifa as a terror group? And I said, because they're not. They're an ideology. Being anti-fascist,
Gotcha.
which every free-thinking person should be, is being Antifa. You should be anti-fascist. A lot of things done in the name of Antifa or blamed on Antifa, according to the FBI, are not Antifa. So if we stop disbelieving people who gather data, then we're lost. So I have to believe that the media is kind of skewing, like there's this dangerous wave about to happen when BLM is standing up and saying, please stop shooting us, police officers, which is what all the rallies were about. That's what I got from them.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I think about that post? I think it's antagonistic. It's whistling to his base, saying that, I'm still on your side. I'm still your guy. I'm going to threaten violence to keep people down, because that's all threats of violence. And our criminal justice system in Louisiana, which we haven't even addressed yet, but we incarcerate more people than North Korea. So that's obviously a major failing of ours. Criminal justice system is basically a way to perpetuate wage slavery in this country. The 13th Amendment, which, freed all citizens except those in prison. So prison is still a legal form of slavery, and people don't realize that we need to address it as that. If you want economic justice, we have to have social justice. And that means we have to reform our criminal justice system, where bad ex-cops who are fired for being bad cops, such as Clay Higgins, are not the ones making policy about how we deal with the criminal justice system in this country. You have to believe people are equal to fight for their equality.
Yes. And man, thank you so much for responding to that. When you decided to run for Congress, you knew that some of these things would be a challenge, correct?
Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
And any challenge is surmountable if you put your mind to it, and if you act without fear. So.
Right. Well, commend you for what you're doing, man, for stepping up. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. So are you pro-life, pro-Second Amendment? If not to either, why?
I am pro-choice because that is a legislated issue. 50 years ago, the Supreme Court made a decision on it. And we also have the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, which allows states to make their own individual laws. So therefore, in Louisiana, for example, we have what many people don't even know. We only have one abortion clinic in Louisiana, and it's not in our district. So that's not an issue that, unless you're looking to engage to drive that issue home as part of campaigning, which I'm not, because I believe it's a legislated issue. There are no abortion clinics in our district. The Louisiana is very restrictive on a local level to women's health. So that's not an issue that we need to address, because on the federal level, it's already been settled with the Supreme Court. So, and as for the Second Amendment, yes, I'm pro Second Amendment.
Got you, man, bro, you own it. And like I said, for you to be in the position that you are and was ready for the challenge, it seems as though you have a game plan. So,
oh yeah, we had a game plan when we started this last August.
All right. What family? For a year. What were a lot of family members surprised that you were doing it again?
Not the second time. The first time it was surprising, but not so much. I've always been outspoken and loud. I just never had a loudspeaker before. A big social media platform. I was always one to be yelling at the TV and opinionated and stay informed. And I was always like that my whole life, but I just passed on that knowledge to my kids. But then, like I said, once they grew up and went somewhere, it's like I have so much to teach and to drive people to do better. And, I've managed, out of my 34 years working, I spent 19 of them either managing, supervising, or owning a company. I mean, I've spent most of my career being the guy who had to come up with the answers to find solutions. So it's very familiar to me. So when I ran the second time, they knew we'd be better at it, and then we'd actually have a chance to win this time. That's what we're not running as a statement. We're running to win.
Yeah.
We're running to beat Clay Higgins and get rid of him.
Yeah. Okay. I
That's
understand
absolutely what we're here for.
That's why you're here. That's no other reason. That's why you're here, to defeat him. Okay. So are you for equal work for equal pay, and for raising the minimum wage? And if why, if not, why?
Yes, I'll start second first again. Raising the minimum wage, yes. It's a big push for nationwide $15 an hour minimum wage. I think it should be more region specific, would be my only adjustment to that. Here, the living wage in Louisiana for a single person working to make the bare minimum, which would be what minimum wage is, around $12 an hour. So that would be my only adjustment. But it hasn't been changed, the minimum wage, since 2009. So we're long past due. $7.25 an hour, I believe the minimum wage still is. Nobody in this country, in any city or locale, even the most rural area, could afford housing on minimum wage. So it's obviously not doing its job as being a minimum wage. So that, yeah, obviously has to go up. I know in some districts, 15 an hour is what they push for, but we are a relatively low cost of living state. So I would push for a minimum 12. Yes.
Wow.
What was the first part?
And the other part was, are you for equal work for equal pay? And for
Sure, yeah. No, obviously, I'm for equality for all on all things. So the only adjustments you'd have to make there is obviously some jobs can only be done by one gender or other, and I wouldn't apply those. But for the equal job, yes, of course, there should be equal pay.
Man, I love the plan. I love the plan. So now, as we're talking about plans, and of course, you've been right on point, and the green screen is informative, and you have given out a lot of information on tonight. Once again, I appreciate you, sir, because I know, with the campaign and different things going on, and then you've been, affected by the hurricane, taking some time out to do this. So once again, like I said, and I have that as a habit, I always tell people how much I appreciate them. I think that makes a big difference. I'll get back to the question in just a minute, but I think it's important to tell folks how much you appreciate them, because a lot of times people never hear how someone appreciate them. So one of my things on the green screen, every guest that I have, I always let them know how much I appreciate them for sharing with me on this platform. I appreciate you again. And so as we continue on, we're just about there. It's about 47 minutes after the hour, so we're almost there. So what are your plans for economic development?
Well, economic development, so many.
Well, that's good. That's good.
It's region-wide. Our economic development plans are definitely region-wide. Some of the specifics thereof would be looking at things I see personally when I go look around my district. I go to Morgan City, I go to Crowley, I go to Jennings, I go to not just Lake Charles and Lafayette, the big cities, but all the little towns in between. Food deserts are a big one. When you go to some cities, certain neighborhoods just don't have access to a supermarket, and when you combine that with bad mass transit, that means somebody would have to take like a taxi ride miles away just to get food. So when you talk about economic development, I would like to develop. I'm thinking North Lake Charles is in my mind right now because it's an area I visit all the time. Driving, I have friends back there, and you drive through a lot of areas that there's big lots. It could be supermarkets, could be gas stations, could be other development. It doesn't have to be just food, but the food deserts is what they call them. And I see it every time I go through there, or even up where I am. The nearest supermarket's 5 miles, and some of the people in my neighborhood don't have cars, so they have to carpool to go down. And a lot of the rural areas are like that. So when you look at economic development, I look at what can help the people best, most quickly, and then go from there. And if an area gets more attractive to live in, the value of it goes up. That happens to everybody across the board. It's not helping some people at the expense of others. It's helping us all. Because if the city gets better, more people come in, more people pay taxes, and suddenly you have a booming metropolis. That's the whole goal behind our economic development campaign, the infrastructure, education, healthcare pyramid, as we call it. All those things are important because all of those things make a region better, because that's what appeals to corporations coming in, like high-tech corporations like Google and Amazon. You get one of those big factories in district and you've got, 40,000 new jobs, high-tech, good paying jobs. And that's what you want to do. You want to eventually appeal to better jobs, alternative energy jobs, solar industry. The solar industry is an $8 billion potential investment in Louisiana itself. That's $8 billion worth of new jobs and new infrastructure for Louisiana. It's an incredible amount of potential sitting there. And that's what we want. 21st century solutions, make everything better. Better stores, better gas stations, better the stuff we use, day to day, which then leads to better parks for our kids to play in, safe parks, areas set aside for, green. We're the, natural beauty state. This is Louisiana.
Yeah.
We got a lot of areas we want to preserve, but there's a lot of places in the cities where you want parks or nature walks or run, dog runs where you can ride your bike safely, skateboard. All of that comes with having a more affluent, robust economy. Alternative jobs bring all those tax dollars in to do those things for the people, that would then attract better business, not just attract better, richer people moving down. We don't need people to move down here. We got lots of people down here. What we need are better jobs coming down here.
Yes, sir.
And our students going off to four-year universities and leaving to going somewhere else. We want to have jobs to offer them so they can stay in their state and not have the brain drain running out, going to find jobs in California and Texas and Austin, New York, Massachusetts, other high-tech areas. We want to get degrees here and stay here, but we got to make the area a little better for them. So that's what our economic development is geared towards, revitalizing the region to make it a place people want to stay, not necessarily just to move to, but to stay and give them good stuff. The government can help with that. The government can help build up the area to make it better, and that'll bring in good jobs.
Man, on point. Informative, very informative. In our last few minutes, I might get one or two, but I do want to ask this one. If the Biden-Harris team is elected, all right, how will you work to protect the oil industry?
Well, that is one thing we hadn't brought up yet, and I'm glad you did. The Green New Deal, which is part of some Democrats right now, is the key component of their package. And if you read elements of the Green New Deal, actually read the legislation as I have. It's very boring, which is why most people don't read it. They read the abbreviated parts, but it's actually very enlightening if you read down through it. A lot of it, the first few pages of it, are exactly what we're proposing. Better infrastructure, better mass transit, all of which geared towards alternative energies to start lowering our carbon footprint, so we can clean up our air and stop heating up our atmosphere. That's based on that theory. Now, some of the things they do go too far, which is what I would say about the Green New Deal and Biden is, let's go to Congress, let's hammer it out and have somebody from Louisiana who can actually put input into it and say, hey, I know that oil and gas you don't want in the future, but it's our livelihood right now. We got to have oil and gas. The entire world runs on oil and gas. We'd all love to be running on solar energy in 50 years, but there's got to be a transition period. We can't just, tell everybody in Louisiana, you're unemployed now. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
And that's why we really need a voice from Louisiana saying, hey, we want training and transition for all these oil and gas workers and oil and gas industry, so the industries themselves don't spook. I mean, who do you propose finance investment into alternative energy? Well, it should be energy companies. Exxon and BP and Mobil, or Exxon is Mobil, but all these oil companies, it would be in their best interest to start putting their money into wave generators and wind turbine technology and alternative energy technology. So when we have these solar plants, Entergy built one out in Plaquemine Parish. We finally have a solar farm out there. We need those all over the state, and it's energy companies that are the ones going to be able to lead the way if we, the elected officials help guide it that way, so that all those oil and gas workers and all of those oil and gas industries transition to stop polluting the planet, basically. But everybody can, I'm a capitalist. I'm not a socialist. You keep on making money. Everybody's got to keep making jobs. Everybody's got to get paid. I understand that. We're not anti-oil. We're just anti, if they make a mess, they better clean it up. I'm anti that. and or like the 10,000 miles of canals they've dredged, accessing, in the Atchafalaya Basin, and haven't filled back in, which contractually they're supposed to. There's a lot of eco damage they're supposed to have already fixed. So that sort of accountability, when you have elected officials that are only, taking donations from oil and gas, of course, they're not going to come down on oil and gas. Well, I don't take donations from oil and gas. I'm not against them, but, I'm going to be for the people. I'm going to make sure we have clean water. And that's what I view my position in Congress to be, and to get us smoothly into the 21st century where, Louisiana gets better paying jobs and has, clean air and water. It's pretty simple. The details are complex, but what we want is simple. We want a nice place to live, to raise our kids. That's it.
Wow. In this last couple of minutes we have, all right, for all our audience, those that are here now, those that are gonna most probably watch later on, whether it be Facebook or YouTube or whatever, tell them why should they vote for you.
Okay. I thought I just did it over the last hour, and I'll condense it down in 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I am for the working class because I'm from the working class. I'm a former driller. I'm a former IT professional. I'm a former home builder. I have lived my experiences, married for 30 years to the same woman, raised 2 kids to adulthood, all based on the same lessons and the same character and the same way of approaching problems and solving them that I would bring to Congress. Everything I do is just to try to improve things around me. I'm a very kind and generous person, very poor. I wish I was rich. Then, I can help more people, but I can help people with effort. I can help them with intelligence. I don't read mainstream news. I go to the sources, read, find out what's really happening, interpret, get down to the data, and bring that in an approachable way to people. I don't really sing any party platforms, pretty much march to the drum of what's best for Louisiana. And based on my analysis and my team's analysis, everything we say and do is all ours. We don't get any platform from anybody. So you're going to get integrity. You're going to get accountability. I'm easy to reach. As you see like this, Howard, called a few days ago, said, "You want to do that?" And I said, "Sure. Love to talk to him." I love doing these podcasts. And my phone number is on the campaign website, and people can reach me on Twitter or reach me on Facebook. I'm very accountable. I will answer any question. I'll stand up. You may not like the answer. It may not always be what you want to hear, but I'm always going to answer, and I'm always going to be accountable. And that just sets me apart from almost every politician in the country.
Wow. Give the campaign website, if you don't mind. Give the address.
Sure. That's easy enough. It's just www.RobAndersonForCongress.com, spelled out FOR, not the number. Some people put 4, but it's just RobAndersonForCongress.com.
Gotcha. RobAndersonForCongress.com. Man, ladies and gentlemen, Facebook audience, the entire hour, all hour long, we've been talking to Rob Anderson, candidate for 3rd Congressional U.S. District. And guess what, man? I got to tell you this, bro. You got my vote, man. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, yes, sir. And you were awesome, man. You said a lot on tonight. You put it out there, and that's good. You know what I'm saying? Because we're touching the audience, that may have not, even known these things, but we touch them right here on the green screen. Have you done any other podcasts yet?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Probably
wow.
20 or 30.
Oh, I thought it was the first one. Oh man, I'm sorry.
No. It's part of the business, as we said.
Yes,
whoa, there's my category. In the digital era, a lot of Zoom conferences, podcasts.
Yes, sir.
You're the first one I've done in a while, local. So yeah, you're ahead of the game there. Because remember, we've been running since last August when we started the exploratory campaign. So it was a long process. Now we're 60 days down to go. So this may be one of the most important ones I've done. So I'm honored that you had me on. And I'm honored that you really do it.
Yes, and if you want to come back, you know what I'm saying? Hey, we got direct numbers now, so hit me up. This is a green screen. Always looking for a special guest on the green screen. So I want to say thank you again,
especially if I get elected.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
If I get elected, you can have me on once a month.
Yes. Oh, boy.
Talk to the people.
Amen. Well, guess what? I definitely hold you to that. I'm looking forward.
Right.
And guess what? I'm adjusting schedule now because when you win, not if, but when you win, we're going to set that up monthly.
All right.
All right. I
I'm all
appreciate
about
you.
it.
Amen.
Yep.
Hey, listen, we thank you so much. Thank you, sir, for joining us. You've been listening to, hey, I got to say it again. Who? Rob Anderson, candidate for Congress, 3rd Congressional, all right, U.S. District. And of course, hey, I'm telling you, he's running against, y'all know, what's his name? Y'all know it. What's that man's name? Yeah, that's who he's running against, all right? But appreciate you much, man. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Be blessed, all right? Take care. All right, there you have it, gang. We out. Remember, the next time someone asks you how you feeling, tell them it feels good to feel good. And that's definitely a good feeling. God bless. Have a good night.